Hey everyone, welcome to Boss Gals Talking Tea. We're back for a great episode today. We're going to introduce our special guest in a minute, but before we do, you know the drill. We need to go over our mission. So here at Boss Gals, we are empowering professional women to reach new heights of success where we foster a supportive environment that aids in unlocking endless possibilities for professional and leadership development. So do me a favor, tune in. I think you're really going to love what we're going to talk about. I think you're going to love our special guests. And I'm excited for us to go over and ask them some of the questions that we have. So just want to introduce myself and co-host. I am Casey and
Yolanda.
All right.
And we are your resident boss gals.
Yes, we are your resident boss gals. And so I'm going to pass the baton over to Yolanda, who's going to introduce our special guest.
Yeah, listen, y'all, I know I say this every time. I'm so excited about our guests today. They are dear friends and, fellow boss gals. So first we have Dr. Robin Buckram, who is the executive director for secondary schools in North Carolina, and she supervises middle and high school principals. Our other esteemed guest is Jermaine Forbes, and she is Deputy Director of Naval Enterprise Networks for the Department of Navy in Washington, D.C. Welcome, Dr. Robin, and welcome, Jermaine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Yolanda, for that introduction. So as you can guess, we've got some power, some boss gals who are making power moves where they are. And so today we're going to talk about Black women in leadership. All right. So again, tune in if you want tips on how to get to leadership. What did they do to get where they are? What are some tips that they have? They're going to provide you with all of that. So let's go ahead and get started. I want them first to talk about their paths to their current leadership position. So I'm going to let Dr. Robin and Jermaine kind of, key us in on what was the path for you to get to your leadership position?
I'll start. So I started in college. I went in undecided, didn't know what I wanted to do. Knew I wanted to write and be a journalist. I thought I was going to be the next Oprah, and found my way to English as a major. And I come from a good old country family. And so my daddy was like, you better get you a teaching degree because you can't do nothing with that English degree. I said, Daddy, I want to write. He said, I might as well have said, I want to go to the moon, back in those days, And so I got my teaching degree. I taught high school English. And I have always just kind of believed that everything I wanted to do is just kind of guided spiritually. And so every door that has opened for me has always been in the field of education. And that's how I knew I was on the right track. So I started as a teacher. I became a principal fellow, started doing I was an assistant principal for a while, became a principal, was a principal at a building for like 16 years before I took on a central office role. So for me, I pursued those opportunities that I knew were within my calling. And every time I did, that doors opened for me.
Love that. Love that. And what about you, Jermaine?
Hello there. So path was a little bit different. Grew up here in the Washington, D.C., Maryland area. And my parents met at A&T and said that, hey, you want to go to HBCU? North Carolina A&T is the only one we'll support. So that being said, I knew I was destined to become to go attend the illustrious North Carolina A&T. But growing up, definitely had a love for math and science. I excelled very well in that. And I did have some time where I was not only in this area, but I had some time down south, and there wasn't a lot of us in those math and science classes. So after coming back to the DC area in Maryland is where I graduated from, I got accepted into A&T into the field of electrical engineering, which is where I got my undergraduate. During the summers, I did jobs in the government. So every summer I had a job in the government. So up in here in this area, back in the 90s, it was, you were told, get you a good government job, especially in this DMV area. So coming back to this area, I landed a job within now the Department of War. It was DOD as effective last week. Now it's called Department of War. But been a DOW employee for the last 31 years. Started out in research and design development for the Department of Navy, of which through the career similar to Dr. Robin, took advantage of every opportunity there was for executive development, leadership. The government paid for my master's and just kept pursuing opportunities to where no one could tell me no. And I was always ready to be qualified for the next initial step in my career. So currently where I am after having been in the government for the last 31 years, still with I haven't been with the Department of Navy my entire career, but just moving around through the DOD and the IT environment is where I landed for the last 25 of those 31 years. And so just being around different groups of folk has definitely enabled me to support the position I have today.
Love that. I do have one question. So for the both of you, it just seems like with what you all went into and pursued, was it like for Dr. Robin, I feel like I heard you say it was smooth going from one education position to the next.
Oh,
Or
no,
it just seemed like doors open for each one. Or
yeah. It wasn't smooth now. It was not smooth. It wasn't smooth.
Right.
It wasn't smooth.
Exactly.
But I think for me, I am somebody who is just a lifelong learner. And I know that sounds very cliche, but I could go to school for the rest of my life. If somebody would pay me a salary just to be in school, that's what I would be doing. I've always gone back to school to level up, to get another degree, to get another skill in my pocket, and every degree was not easy, especially my doctorate, not easy to do. But what you have to understand is that when you go back for advancement or you go back for more professional development, however you do that, you actually put yourself in spaces where you are open to opportunity, right? And so if I were just to stay in the classroom and never do anything to develop myself professionally, then I would probably still be in the classroom. The classroom is a wonderful place to be. And if the classroom is where I wanted to be for the rest of my career, then I would have been at the top of what I could do as a teacher. And so I've always tried to do those things that are going to put me in spaces where I can be around those people who are where I want to get to, right? And so not smooth, but I have definitely experienced doors opening for me when I was supposed to walk through those doors and be in that particular position. So yeah, I think that when I say doors open, they open during times when I needed them to open, but may not have been the easiest doors to go through. And as Black women leaders, I can't say that any of our doors are easy to go through.
Right.
And let me say something real quick. So, one of the things that stood out, right, was you talking about being around people who were doing what you wanted to do. I think about a scripture that talks about iron sharpens iron, right? And certainly if there's someplace you want to be, please excuse my dogs. If there's someplace that you want to be, you can't stay around. Not that you get rid of your friends, but right. But you have to be around people like Dr. Robin said, who are further along than you, so that you can learn from them, that you can grow, that you can be mentored, that you can be sponsored by them, right?
Because it's in those times when when you're in those spaces and you develop those relationships with people, it's like those times when you need something to happen and a door to open.
They remember you.
Those people are the ones speaking well of you when you're not in the room. And that's what you want, right? And you want those people who are gonna ride for you behind the scenes to other people and get you in those doors where you might not otherwise go. And that could be Black people, that could be white people, that could be any people. But I believe in every relationship being a meaningful one. And so I don't take them lightly.
And Jermaine, what about you? Do you feel like professional development in it and, taking those advancing courses or classes or whatever help you to open those doors for you as well?
Oh, I would agree. And to that point, you always want to be able to not only have the breadth, but also the depth. So you have the ability to talk across subjects and be a subject matter expert, or if you have to go down into the conversation and show that you understand what they're going, you can also have that diversity. And to Dr. Robbins' point, being around different people and having different circles, because not all the circles can interact with one another, but being around those folks that you want to further be in the position for, and also in the journeyman level or going to the professional development and they seeing opportunities, you definitely have to make sure you're around those different folks and you can be a part of those conversations and also be into the different meetings as well. Because I will definitely attest to sometimes you might get invited to the meetings and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to say, look, I see this on the calendar or I see this conference coming up. I'm interested in going. I'm interested in learning more.
Right.
And also taking and also not getting comfortable. I know for me, I tend to say, you know what, I need to, be a part of the CIO council. I need to be a part of this board, or I need to be a part of this activity that's going on and talk to different people because even though it's the DC area, the DMV, but the neighborhood and the IT space is a small circle. I tell you, I see people when I go out, I'm like, weren't you just doing this before? Weren't you over here? But people advance, and to Dr. Robbins' point, they remember having conversations. And then also relationships, I would agree that they are long lasting, especially for the ones when people see you having potential and you build that trust and they know what you say is true. And they also know that you mean business and you know what you're talking about. So that goes a long way. And it develops over time. I mean, try to tell some of the younger people now that are working with me is like, yes, you have the education. Now you have to advance and get to know your job. Once you know your job, can't nobody talk to you. Can't nobody mess with you. And that's when you can say you're getting that experience along with the education because that goes a long way as well.
So I just want to recap something really quick. Jermaine, you said that was so important. When you see the email and you want to get in on that meeting, ask. Just open up your mouth.
That's it.
That's right. That's
Don't
right.
be not, the only thing they can say is yes or no.
Exactly.
That's right. At my job, they use the phrase "take charge of your career,"
That's right.
and that's exactly what it's doing. You can't wait around for people to invite you to things. I mean, the worst that they can say is no, right?
Exactly. And be intentional. And be intentional about it. I'm not saying you be in every meeting just because you want to be in on it. I got people sometimes like, why are you in this meeting? You have nothing to contribute. You want to be in here because, but be intentional. So when people see you, they know that you are part of the discussion that's going on. They remember what you said and contribute, not just to say, because you'd be surprised. Some people just want to be there to say they were there, but you want to be known for your contribution to the conversations and the actions you took away and the people that you're interacting with. Yeah.
I love it. You both just gave great wisdom nuggets. So advancement, professional development, you see that email, just ask. And first check your motive. You're just trying to brag.
That's right. Don't do it because of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out on something.
FOMO. I will tell you, I don't have it. And if I'm not, and sometimes on some of them, because I've been around so long, it's oh, man, you weren't here, you weren't. I said that's okay.
Yes,
you need me at everything,
I love that.
But in coming up before, you just didn't know, and you can start to filter. Once you start understanding, you say, you know what, I'm gonna let you, and that's when you start being able to, delegate and have other people and empowering your teammates to take on more responsibilities and things like that. So yeah, it's all a part of that.
All right, so we're getting to the good stuff already in the beginning because we want to keep you all with us the entire segment. So what to both of you would you consider key leadership traits and skills? You could talk about your personal, or you could just talk just a broad view of what you believe are key leadership traits and skills.
I'll start, Dr. I think for me, it's trust and also being a person of my word and just being a genuine listening empathy for what we have to do for the warfighter in that regard. A lot of things that we have to do, have to make tough decisions. We're dealing with resources, whether it be our people or our budgets, or, we have pressures coming from the political folks in our environment. And we have to make a lot of decisions. And so sometimes when you're given that data and people are just looking at you, and be in this leadership capacity. We sometimes make decisions with the best information that we have, but I think at the end of the day, when particularly the folks in my team or my folks that I'm encountering with on a daily basis, when I say we're going to do it, or when I hear a customer who's asking for a status on things, and when I return their call and or get after that particular tasker, or something that my teammate has delivered something, they know if it came from me, there was an analysis that was done. If it was something that, and again, being honest, if it's something I couldn't get to, or I just don't know all the answers right now, they know I'm gonna get back to them. And then also building a relationship with our teammates. So that has been some strong things that I know for me that has carried me through. And to the point that was made earlier on moving forward and getting engaged in others, that's also been a trait that says, you know what, I was even nicknamed the glue in my job, for a few years. I kind of got offended about it at first. I said, well, I'm not the glue. Why she keep calling me that? But to that point of the connection and bringing people together and helping them understand their role and what they needed to do, and they're listening to me, I was able to help pull things together and move things forward and make things happen. And capabilities that were going through in a negative way, I was able to turn some things around. So I think that has been helpful for me.
Okay, we gonna get you a shirt, the glue.
The glue.
Get you a jersey. You're number one, and then we go put the glue.
Making those connections, yeah.
What about you, Dr. Robin?
For me, communication is huge. Mm-hmm. Just whatever kind of communication is, whether it's your day-to-day communication, whether it's email communication, that face-to-face. In education, it's a lot of people work, children, parents, people at central office. I work with principals every day who also have to be forward-facing to the public. And so for me, being a good communicator is key in a lot of the work that I do. And I have worked very hard to make sure that I am a key communicator and that what I'm communicating is reliable, right? The other thing I think is important now, especially with the way the world is moving, is just that personal interaction and relationship building with people, and the emotional intelligence to move through your job on a daily basis, and knowing how to exercise the right emotion at the right time, knowing when I should lean in a little bit more and add some pressure, and when I should lean back and just kind of mentor or listen to people more. And so I think of being a good communicator, definitely making sure that I can relate to people and have a relational type of leadership style is something that I really try to foster. And then to be a listener. We're always talking as leaders. We're always talking to somebody. And I try to practice active listening just so people feel heard. And sometimes in some of the worst situations, I had a situation where a parent came into one of the schools very flustered, kind of had some words with an office person, and it just kind of got out of hand. And I just took her back and sat down, and she just immediately started rattling off everything that was going wrong. And I said, just take a minute and just calm down and just take a minute. And I just listened to her. I didn't have a whole lot of answers, but I just listened to her. And sometimes people walk away feeling heard is the best thing you can do as a leader, because then they know I can come to you again and talk to you about anything. And so a large part of what we do is definitely interacting with people and making them feel comfortable and making them feel like you have an ally here. Maybe we can come to terms on some things, maybe we can't, but at least I treated you with dignity. We listened, we talked, we communicated, and we walked away how we walked away. And you may not have gotten everything you wanted. I may not have gotten everything I wanted, but you know that you can talk to me. You know that you can come to me.
Does the same go for you as a leader when you're working with your colleagues or when you're, managing a team? Or do you show that same compassion or have that same ideology, feel like, because I think for someone, I'm not in leadership, but I would want my leadership to treat me as though, with that same respect. Like if I need to come talk to you, you're not so busy on making the numbers that I can't, or if I have a bad day or if I can't perform, You're not going to like beat me down over the head. You're going to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that as women, we are very nurturing. We can have that nurturing part of in everything we do. I think, most women are naturally kind of nurturers. We have children, or we have spouses, we have loved ones. Some we take care of our parents, all kinds of stuff. And so I think that there's this nurturing part of what we do. And yes, when I'm interacting with my principals, I do want to make sure that I am that safe space for them, that they can feel like I'm listening, that they can feel like I'm an ally when we are in the heat of it or a challenge. But then there's also that side of us that has to have that accountability that I sometimes have to really work on, because I want to see you win. Like, I want to see you win. I want to coach you up. I want to make sure I'm right in there with you. And that nurturing part of our leadership definitely, for me, can take over sometimes. And so I do love the relational part of my job that I have with my principals. I love talking to them. I love when they're having a bad day and they're like, they can call me and we can talk about it. And then afterwards I can say, okay, now this is what we're going to do, right? This is what happened, but now we're going to go back and try this. And so for me, leaning into that real accountability piece with leaders can sometimes make it feel like I'm not trying to be relational with you. Like, I'm not trying to like really nurture you, but there's this delicate balance that we have to have with it. Now, sometimes with children and kids, you probably get more into some of that nurturing part because you're trying to put out a fire, problem solve, and it's developmental things, children, parents, that kind of thing. And we tend to have a shorter bit of tolerance with our colleagues, right? Like, we're like, you should know this, you're not gonna get on my nerves today, whatever. But I think that I have done a lot to like reach across divisions and develop relationships with people across divisions. And that's another thing about being a leader. Like, you got to learn how to reach across, to Jermaine's point. Like, you got to learn to reach across the aisle sometime. Like, I don't work in safety and operations, but I might need something from safety and operations. So I need to make sure I foster
Absolutely.
relationships, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes we can get so focused on this is my division, this is my department. As long as we're good, I'm good. But as long as you can't operate like that, one division being good does not reflect, what you need to happen for the entire organization. So you can't just be division minded. You got to be organization minded.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
If I could add on, I would say for me, one of my growth moments, particularly Dr. Robin was talking, was during COVID. I'm one of the directors now, but at the time I was a principal assistant program manager. And when COVID hit, and I was working all the services, infrastructure, the phones, the environments, the cyber, we had all those people working for us, and we had to keep everything afloat because everybody was going home and teleworking, and we didn't have the infrastructure built up to support that. And so in working with the DOD CIO, not Department of War, I got to remember to say that, but working with the Department of War CIO and our own CIO, and working through those resources and trying to get the environment ready, my team was responsible for all the end-to-end inputs for making it, to strengthen the network and to make it so that everybody could go home and still log on to the network because you didn't have people coming into the building. That being said, folks were really getting pressured. And I was always, because, to Robin's point, as a mother, as a wife, and as just being, sometimes the only one of us in the room, I was like, look, I'm coming up, I'm giving y'all my 8 hours, I'm going home, and I'm gonna do my time, you gotta do yours. So I don't want to hear about nothing about your bad day. I don't want to hear nothing about it, because I can't say it, you can't say it. It got to the point where I just really had to say, hold up, these people are not okay.
That's right.
I had team members who were losing their parents. I had team members and friends that were losing their brothers to this stuff. And I had to really be like, you know what? It's not like we home because it's snowing outside. These
Right.
folks are really dealing with this. And so when we talk about the growth in me, I started out, and you got to be careful with the religious part of it. So we started like texting each other, how's everybody doing? Or before I would just first I would just jump in. I had a habit of just jumping in and saying, okay, what you doing? What you doing? But I said, hold on, let's take a pause. How's everybody doing? What let's talk about. I would send out some things for the day to get everybody motivated and just to check on everybody's mental health, because at the end of the day we needed them. And and if they didn't have a good day, it was like, look, we good. Go ahead and take care of your family, take care of your daughters are doing well, because kids were trying to still go to school.
Right.
And I'm bringing all of that because I know me personally, I grew as a leader in that environment for me, because it taught me not only, first of all, we're human, first and foremost, but even after that, it was that you have to make sure you take care of your people first. And even this, where we are right now in this administration, and folks are really struggling. So I'm constantly asking folks, how was your weekend? How you doing? You okay? And just checking in, because people are really trying to deal with a lot of this stuff that has gone on since that time. But I think for me, it was a pivotal experience as a supervisor and as a leader, in that it taught me to just really step back and be vulnerable myself. It's okay for me not to have all the answers. It's okay for me to have moments and say, you know what, I need to go take a walk. I'll be back. And so I just wanted to put that out there, because there was an area or a time in my career where I was just so focused on just getting things producing to where, and work with my teammates, that I wasn't taking that time to really check on my teammates as well.
Thank you for that transparency.
That was really good. Yeah.
You won't hear that from a lot of leaders. So for you to just tell us that you had a growth moment, that's beautiful. Now, I know, Dr. Robin, you did mention the word mentor, so let's talk about that. Talk to me, both of you, about key experiences and mentors that help to shape your leadership style. And you don't have to mention them by name, if you want, you can, but you can just kind of roundabout tell us about that.
I think we all have leaders who have shaped us in one way or the other, the good way or the bad way, right? I have had women in my life, of all races, actually, who have been inspiring to me. But when I think about Black women leaders, I've had some women to like call me out on my stuff, like to say, you're wrong.
That's right.
That's not the way you should have handled that. And I remember one time I went to one of my mentors, I consider her a mentor, and I was like, I don't know, I was crying, and I was like, they're treating me so bad, and I'm trying to do the best I can, and I was trying to, giving her some just a synopsis of things that I had done, and she was like, you were wrong. And I'm bawling, right? I'm thinking, this is my girl. She, she's getting ready to like be on my side. And I think for me, the best mentors I have had are those women, Black women especially, who have done what I want to do, been where I want to go, are where I want to go. And they're like, they have that nurturing, and they have like perfected that balance. Like they can be nurturing as a friend and talk to me, but at the same time, they're like, that was wrong. Or let me tell you where you went wrong. Let's talk about, reflect on this. How can we get to a better point? I don't know what I would do without the women who have spoken into my life, the women who have encouraged me when I was wanting to give up, and the women who pushed me to like leave places. Because one thing about us, we're loyal. We are loyal to a fault.
That's right. That's right.
To a fault. And I think sometimes we find that our counterparts, like, they're climbing, they're gone. They give you 3-4 years, they're out, and we're so loyal, and we want to see people do better, and we're mentoring those young people that we see, have potential, and we want to see them grow. And then we end up staying in places where we should have left like years ago. And so you got to have those people around you. And all of my mentors are not in education. I have close friends in the business world, the finance world, higher ed, banking, all kinds of places. And I glean everything I can from them. And they have been the ones like at some of my lowest moments. And that's how you know when you have a good mentor, somebody who's going to call you out on your stuff, somebody that's still going to help you, and then they're going to push you and say it's time to go, and like I said, we'll sit somewhere for a long time, like Miss Sophia, just rocking. We'll sit because, like, to Jermaine's point, we get comfortable.
We do.
And we like that. And Yolanda will tell you, she knows my story. And like, it was a time I was like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
You should have been gone. You should have been gone, So I think the mentorship that's been very important for me is those women who pray for me, those women who speak into my life, those women who call me out, those women who, might not use such nice language sometimes to like snap me out of my stuff and get yourself going. But you can't make it. I don't know how any Black woman leader makes it without a circle of strong women to help you. And when you don't have that in your life, you are either going to be what we used to talk about in one of my master's classes. You will show up like the disembodied male in the class, in the room, because you're trying so hard to lead like a man when you're a woman.
That's right. Can't do it. It's different.
And you cannot do it. And you better have some sisters around you who can say, come here.
Real talk.
When you don't, you're not, you might climb and you might get the salaries and all that good stuff, but you're not going to be whole. You have to have people to speak into your life. You have to have a network of women who you can just talk to sometimes about the stuff you're going through.
Right.
And we think sometimes we're going through it by ourselves, but you're not.
I think for me, and everything that Dr. Robbins stated, I definitely agree with. I've certainly had those mentors in my life that have sat me down, called me out when necessary. But one of the things that I would say that they also helped me with is to see it in a different perspective. When you're in the day-to-day and you're dealing with, especially if you're in a position, you've been around certain folks for a long time, and you have aspirations and dreams, and you also, we have a tendency to put expectations on ourselves and have certain standards, and you just question things. And then sometimes somebody will say, well, don't you think maybe you're not looking at it the right way? And then I get a little attitude about it too. I'm like, I ain't asked you for all that. I want you to tell me. But at the same time, I had to really think about it. I said, well, what you saying? Are you saying? He said, well, no, you may think about it this way. Maybe they need you there for this, or maybe you need to think about this is your place for now, or to your point of the praying over me, and also seeing a different way and looking at to say, you know what, if you weren't there, if you didn't say that, what do you think would have happened? What change did you think you may not have been able to impact in the growth of the deliverable of what we're trying to do for our war fighters in the Navy? And to your point, it's not just women that have been that way with me. I am in the IT field and one of the male-dominated professions, and I've had women and men to have conversations with me that have been my mentors, and they haven't been all African American. I have had all different races and different education levels to have had said certain things. I talk a lot now to the millennials. I say, well, what are we doing here? Can you help me understand what y'all talking about? And so, because I want them to be comfortable, but I also want them to help educate me so that when I'm talking, I'm not so far up here to where they're not receiving me. And they're just like, not able to grow and do the work they need to do. So I've just been able to hear from them as well. But like I said, the main takeaway is a little bit different from, I'm not going to repeat everything Robin said. I've certainly been benefited from everything she's talking about, and I wholeheartedly agree. But I think for me lately has been talking with people to help me see things in a different way. And that has also helped to to ground me emotionally sometimes on some of those rough days. And so
Yeah.
I'm not always just looking at it in such that light that you hear about on the news, or you see things, you kind of got your guard up a little bit, so that has been helpful for me.
All right. So here's what I want y'all both to do right now. Y'all both put a smile on your face, like a kid in the candy store smile, because now to the viewers, I'm looking at the camera, like, don't let this be the only reason what I'm about to ask them. But I want them to smile because I want them to talk about the perks. What are the perks of leadership? Do you get free lunch when you go in the
I know that's right. I know that's right. I mean, of course we know. Of course we know, right? The money, right?
I work for the government. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I work for the government. No,
Do you shop at Nordstrom's, H&M, and Chick-fil-A, or do you get to go to Fred's Lobster and Steakhouse? Now, again, before they answer, this is not the only reason we want to be in leadership, friends, but we do want them to give us the perks before we start going into some of the hard discussions. So go ahead.
I would say, for me, first of all, ma'am, I work for the government. There's no perks in the financial, because we just the lowest of the lows when it comes to the resource. However, from a ranking perspective, I'm not the type of person that just throws it out there unless I have to. But I will sometimes have to throw it out there, and so sometimes that does help. But as far as helping out with the decisions, being the voice, if you will, to have the final say on certain things, sometimes there have been those perks. To the point, sometimes when you get ready to go places, you get the parking. I will say that does help. The parking can be beneficial. But at the same time, because of our ethics rules, we have to watch out. There's no gifts exchange, and of course, there's no, lunches and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, just being invited sometimes to certain places, if you will, and certain opportunities to have those conversations with folks helps out as well. And then also when we do have, conferences and or activities going on throughout the days and stuff, and people, exactly, who you're affiliated with, or know who you're working with, the dynamic, you can just kind of see the dynamic changes with the conversation. If you, unless you just and look at your badge and say, oh, VIP, so you get a different look sometimes.
So a nice little boost to the ego,
right?
Goes a long way, right?
They read your name tag a little differently than just a regular attendee or something like that. It's a VIP, But as you would say, Yolanda, to whom much is given, much is required.
That's
so
right.
Trust me. Sometimes you'll be like, okay, I'm not able to I'm gonna flip my name tag around or whatever, because you don't want people to know who you are or why you there, what's going on. You just want to enjoy where you are. So it does come with this precious, if you will.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think that I have seen, in terms of perks, of course, I make more, than when I was a teacher, or, and so I think that, for financially, sometimes in some of our African American households, like, a lot of times women are, like making more these days, and that kind of stuff. And so I think that in terms of being able to take care of my family, that has been the biggest perk for me. And having a level of comfort that is good for me and my family. And so I think being able to positively kind of like make a good contribution to the household for the kids, it has allowed me access into places where I may not have otherwise been, and it's also allowed me to model for my kids how you get to where you want to be, how you work hard for what it is you want. And I think they have watched me kind of, go from this level to this level, and kind of watch how I did it and that kind of thing. Of course, sometimes, being called doctor, it's a good thing sometimes, but of course, like Jermaine, nobody cares. I'm not giving like I'm Dr. Robin. Don't call me Robin. No. There are people who do that. But I'm not.
Sometimes you got to flex, Dr. Rob. Sometimes you got to remind them, I'm Dr. Robin. To you, I'm Dr. Robin.
I got to pop out, Jermaine.
That's right. You got to do it sometimes. Yes. I get it.
So every now and then those space, but where I find that shows up most in spaces where people are just not wanting to acknowledge who you
That's
are
right.
and what you
That's
have
right.
worked for
Yes, ma'am.
because
Mhm.
they think they can,
That's right.
Right.
So I'm rarely faced with that, but there have been times, when I've been faced with it because a Black woman with the doctorate, there are a whole lot of ideas about, who we are and the type of women we are and that kind of stuff. And a lot of most of that couldn't be further from the truth.
Right.
And so I think for me, the biggest perk is the access, being able to have a level of comfort and take care of my family. And I think too, the experience that I would not have otherwise gotten, just like working with principals, working in schools, having the background to know what they're talking about, to relate to them when they're having, challenges and that kind of stuff. So I love working with principals. I love developing them. I love to see them grow. And so for me, one of the biggest perks too is like seeing the fruits of my labor, like seeing things change for principals in a positive way.
Y'all so humble. Cause if I had that parking space, getting out of that car slow. Like,
Casey, would the sign at that parking space have like neon lights on it?
I would be thinking, all of my coworkers like, I'm pulling up. Everybody leave your desk. Come outside.
That's funny. It's funny. I'm not at in DC right now, and I'm up here at a meeting, and I even told my guys, I said, look, don't have me looking for stuff when I get it. I want y'all to know what we. So sometimes you just gotta just flex a little bit. Say one time. They already know. Yeah, y'all better know.
And the doctor, my dissertation,
Love it.
You gonna call me doctor.
Robin, she gonna be that one. She gonna be that one. Everybody gonna be like,
who you talking to? You're not talking
here come Dr. Casey.
Here I am with the head. Here I am. What do you need today? Okay.
You do go through that when you first get your doctorate. You're like, oh, I'm Dr. Rob.
As you should.
Dr. Rob.
Listen, because that is not.
Yeah, we don't
easy to do.
Oh, no doubt.
Right? That is not easy. That was some time, effort, struggle, years in the making. You doggone right. You should have been wearing around a T-shirt that said doctor.
You should have an Adidas gold chain where DR. You see the bling on my chest? No? No, I love it though. Those are great answers. And again, it's not for people that want to do that for those reasons, but you understand your hard work does pay off.
Yeah, I mean, you can buy a little Gucci bag every now and
then.
Listen,
ain't nothing wrong.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Now we're gonna shift into not a hard conversation, but let's talk about it. So I'm gonna start with you, Jermaine, because you are in federal, working with the federal government. So let's talk about navigating the current political climate and the DEI changes. Mm-hmm. So can you talk about whether or not you're troubled that you don't see other minorities, or you could just give what you can about navigating this current political climate?
It's been challenging. It has definitely made for me to have to really, I talked to you earlier about seeing things differently and deep into my spirituality, if you will, because it has changed a lot. And even it's hitting home in my organization to where I'm seeing some changes, but at the same time, I'm still there. And so to the point of me being there, you'll be surprised at how many people, and it's not just African-American people, a lot of, even today, I was even told, somebody walked up to me and said, I'm so glad you stayed, because it goes back to the earlier question that you asked about our leadership strengths and having that integrity to where you have that comfort to know, okay, somebody's in the room that's going to be honest, or somebody's in the room that has a brain and is going to tell the truth. And, I think for me, it has been trying to, I don't want to say change my tone, but, I think that's something African American women, we get told about our tone, if you will, and how we talk and how we can be aggressive. And, so I really just had to, start, not that I'm an HR friendly way, but just talking differently, or just, touching somebody on the shoulder and say, we're going to be okay. Or, just change how you deliver your same message, because you don't want to get caught into those stereotypes. And I'll tell, and then we laugh about it sometimes. But like, I'm not giving nobody a reason, but we can change how we get our message across. We can be creative in and how we talk about certain situations. Excuse me. And also, no, I don't get caught up into some of those conversations, because at the end of the day, well, first of all, we lied about earlier, don't have FOMO, but what they're not going to do is say what you may say it, So I have to be very careful about that. So it has shed a different light on the conversations. It has shed a different light on when you look around, they're like, where all the women go? Where all these, where they all go? So when you're the only one in the room, which I was before, it's even now more prevalent. So it's been very interesting. Excuse me, but it's real. It's real.
I bet. I mean, I think the world is watching. We're all watching.
And that's another thing. Everybody's watching you and wanting to understand, did she hear that? How's she going to react? What's she going to say? And I use Teams and chat just like everybody else. And I'll send a little note and say, hey, I think we can figure out another way to say this. Or, hey, I think we can figure out another way to say this message. Or that picture wasn't that appropriate. Or, because sometimes people throw the signs up in the chats when we're having these team meetings and they get comfortable. I'm like, we don't do that. So it's more of a trying to set the standard and trying to level set expectations, and also still standing firm in what you are and what you're not going to tolerate, because respect is respect. And so at the end of the day, you have to definitely say, look, we're not doing this. And I've had to do that.
I love that. Set the standard. There you go. Oh, go ahead.
Well, for me, it has shown up a little differently in education, because we're challenged with new laws that have been passed, right? And so, there are laws about gender right now on athletic teams. And, there's a lot of legislation that has been handed down under the, I guess, the DEI umbrella. And so for me, it has really kind of made me come face to face with, like, what you gonna stand for,
right?
Who are you gonna be? How are you gonna show up in this particular situation? Am I advocating for? Am I like, I don't know if I can touch that, because I'm under attack as well. Like, so it has definitely put me in a leadership space where I have really kind of been thinking here lately, actually being very reflective about, okay, this is what it is, but who am I? And how will I show up? And what am I willing to, risk it for? And so I think for educators, and especially Black women leaders, we're always, sometimes we're the ones making those decisions. We're in positions like mine. We're assistant superintendents, we're superintendents, and some of those decisions, those hard decisions about that, are coming to us to make, women, Black women in leadership. And so to Jermaine's point, like, all the stereotypes that are out there, Black, can I advocate and not feel like I'm showing up as the angry Black woman in the room? Can I stand up for a principal and it not just be, oh, that's just because they're, this or whatever. So I think it has challenged us in the education world, because this legislation is really forcing our hands on a lot of things that we otherwise would, be doing in a more inclusive, manner. And so it's just challenged us. And so I think everybody in education right now is feeling it in terms of how it's trickling down to children and families and how it's impacting them. But it's also like, are you going to stand for something, or are you going to not? And we have, our choices are different. Our choices are different sometimes.
Do you feel like you take this home? Like, do you feel like the weight of like the current political climate with, DEI and the federal government, Jermaine, and then Dr. Robin with them changing the laws for education? Do you feel like that weight are you bringing it home, or is it just something that you just navigate while you're at work through?
So, yes, I do. I mean, and when I say I take it home, I have daughters who are interested in different fields of study that is, not as diverse, and they've actually heard me. I've had to tell them, this is some decisions you're gonna be dealt with, or these are some things you guys to think about. I even had a conversation just before we got on this conversation about with one of my daughters and speaking up for herself and talking to her instructor and saying, look, if you feel like you didn't get treated correctly, you need to have a conversation. Do I need to send a note? No, I got it. But just trying to let them know earlier on that they have to start speaking up. They have to speak up for themselves, and that they have to advocate for themselves and know that they feel as though there's something they felt like they deserved or felt like there's something happened. They have to say something. They have to be, and they have to expect a response and not sit there and just take it. And I think, for a long time, I would say for myself, I think I was probably more quiet in my earlier years in the government. It's, oh, that's just how it's supposed to happen. That's as I got smarter and understanding, just kind of saw the play. I said, well, no, wait a minute. I need to ask some questions. I need to figure out, well, why is this happening? Why is that happening? And my husband, he's actually in IT as well. And so, very, different places of work, but similar outcomes of activities. And, we just have to, sometimes we have those conversations. I have to sometimes bounce some things and ask, well, did I handle it right? Or what you think you would have done? Or even, like I said, and just hearing my daughters hear me talk about it. And I think it has been able to allow them to grow as well and understand, because it's not going to get any better anytime soon. And what I am fearful of is that, just as, Dr. Robin had mentioned, well, we were told to be this type of person in, early days. We were only told we could do this or we could do that. I don't want, and I mean, our young people, I don't want them thinking and they have to be bounded to only accept mediocre and only have to be bound, only have to, take on a certain type of position because that's something that somebody has pigeonholed them and told them they can do. I want them to keep dreaming. I want them to keep hoping and believing that, hey, this is something I want to achieve and it's out there for me and I can accomplish it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I do bring it home because it just weighs on you. Like these are things, and in my profession, a lot of these things are impacting children, and my principals are having to navigate it, and they're asking me, how do I do this, or asking us at the district level, how are we navigating this? What do we do? And it does make me, I think a lot of it makes me just want to hold my own kids tighter sometimes, like in terms of bringing it home. I bring home, like, this is what's happening, to Jermaine's point. This is what's happening. And this is how you got to show up, And it's very difficult because this generation is not in a box. They do not want to be put in a box, and I don't think they should be. But sometimes I kind of feel like a lot of what's happening in terms of DEI is forcing them into this space that, I don't think is going to turn out well. Like, they're not going to allow it. They're going to be their authentic selves. These children are out here, they can blow up on Instagram now. They don't even have to go to college. They're creators and they're influencers and, they're following what they want to do, And so I guess for me, I try to remain hopeful that there's enough of us, in leadership, Black women in leadership, who are pushing our children and who are trying to help them navigate these spaces and still have their dignity, And so I think every day for me, it is a, every day going into these spaces, knowing how things are changing. Like, am I leaving with my dignity today? Am I giving dignity to somebody else? And that's kind of how you got to live.
Woo, that's deep. Am I leaving with my dignity?
Am I leaving with my
Right.
dignity?
Man, that's real talk, but I don't think I thought about it like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, Yolanda, am I leaving work with my dignity today or dignity?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever asked myself that question. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
you just hit me hard in the chest right there. I'm gonna have to ask
So
myself.
let me ask this. So both of you, but probably more specifically Jermaine, right, has talked about kind of being the only one in the room because of the fields that you all are in. It's a little bit different, right? So Robin, I know, I started looking up some of the statistics for teachers and principals, women in general, right? And Black women in education. And, you know, I, I know when I was growing up, right, I had a little chalkboard and I was a teacher, right, with my little stuffed animals, right? And so I know education, at least when you're talking about, the primary education, right, K through 12, it's and you can help me. You get me with this help me with this statistic, Robin. It's predominantly women, or right? Would that be correct?
Absolutely.
Right. And then when you start looking at principals, I know for women in general, it's probably half and half. But then when you start talking about Black women, right, that number decreases.
Yes.
And so now,
absolutely.
tell me what and I know because I'm not looking at it right now. I know I sent that statistic, but do you know right off the top of your head in terms of principals what that statistic is, the percent for Black women principals? And then I want you to talk about how that number narrows when you begin talking about administration.
Yeah, I do not have the statistics on it, but in all of my preparation programs, that was one of the things that always came up. How small the pool starts to get the higher you go for women, and then how small it gets when you get into higher positions like central office, superintendent. I think maybe the last statistic I read about Black women superintendents was maybe like 4%, something very, very low. And so I think that has implications, right? When you're going at a different level, a higher level in anything, and you see less of your face, less of people like you, that has lots of implications. And so to Jermaine's point, when you're the only one in the room, like decisions are not being made with you in mind. Sometimes your perspective is not even is part of the conversation, and so it becomes this place where you feel like, I think what I have seen happen with some of our top women is that they go in and they're doing that work, like they're killing it, they're doing it, and there's these stereotypes that pop up. I'm getting work done. I'm moving things. You can see my progress. You can see the things I'm doing. And we just seem to sometimes get held up by these images and these stereotypes that are not true about us, right? And sometimes I think we find ourselves fighting against that more than we're focusing on the work that we have to do sometimes, right? And it becomes a major distraction. And when we're distracted, we're not our best. And so it sometimes I wonder, like, where it comes from. It is this attitude about Black women leaders sometimes, and I have seen some Black women leaders take some abuse. I mean, abuse from the public and others, and it puts you in a space where you just feel like, how can I win? How can I win? If I blow up and like defend myself, then I'm the stereotype. If I take it, then I'm weak. So I
Right.
think that we show up when we're not at the table, you know, we have to and we're if we're not at the table and we're going to stay there and eat, then we need to understand what's on the menu, right? It might be you. It might be you. And so I think it's what we deal with every day. Like
Mhm.
every single Black woman in leadership, there is not a day that you don't say, you know, what's it gonna be today? You know, what's it gonna be today? You know, what's it gonna be today? You know, and how am I going to show up and handle that? And I don't know if other people have to do that when they get up every morning in that way. You know.
Yeah. And just curious, so Jermaine, because you are definitely in a more not only male dominated field, but you are a minority. What are some of the positives of being the only one in the room? Meaning, not only a woman, but being a Black woman in the room.
I think for me is having the ability to call out and recognize other women in the room,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what, because sometimes they may be feeling the same way I'm feeling and may not have had the opportunity to be called on because we're being watched all the time, no matter whether we want to admit it or not. And I tell you what, I've been very surprised at some of the folks that has come up to me and say, yeah, I was really wondering what you were going to say when that person asked you that, or I like the way you did that. So the encouragement that I've been able to provide to others to let them know, as the doctor said, there is some hope. And trust me, I've definitely had some chew outs where sometimes I'll stay and take, sometimes it's quietly pack my stuff and I'm leaving because certain things I'm just not going to take. And I don't have to just pop off or whatever. But I just like, you know what? Somebody needs to take a time out and be the adult in the room. And then I just maybe just have to be that one and say, well, you know what? We're not going to continue down this road. Or I just say, look, respect, peace. This is what we got to do. But my point is, if I wasn't in that capacity to, number one, acknowledge what's right or wrong to a certain capacity, to a certain degree, or to call on the others who are doing their due diligence and give them the, I would say the visibility that they haven't had before. Because I've been able to make hires, have hiring actions, be a part of, hiring actions, be a part of on panels and asking questions on some of those hiring actions, advocate for folks. And so those are some of the positive things that I think I've been able to help support. And even to the point of we have climate surveys in our organization a lot of times. And just having, you hear about certain statistics and then you're like, and sometimes I even told my supervisor, sometimes you feel that you do carry the weight of certain people wanting to come and have certain conversations with you that they may not ordinarily have with other people. So just saying that I feel good that, maybe there's something I've been able to say or do or carry myself to where people feel comfortable in sharing certain things with me to Doctor's point that maybe hopefully I can help make a difference and offer that guidance to other people as they're trying to struggle and get through it, that if I wasn't there, if I wasn't in the picture, somebody would continue to be struggling, if you will. So there've been I think there's been some positive along with the heartache thing.
Definitely.
But you gotta, and it's helped me change my perspective because you say, well, what if I wasn't there? Or what if I wasn't available for this person to come talk to? And then you get your cries out. Sometimes, like I say, when I walk out, sometimes I may just close my door in my office and let it out. And then I just open the door and say, what's up? What we doing? Because you have to have those moments and be open and be honest and also share. Sharing like with even the forum we're having right now, sharing with other folks who are dealing with those same struggles. And I know that we sometimes don't want to share that. And I think that's a part of the positive thing, but it's expected that we will share, and because it's real. And it's definitely opportunities there with that.
I concur with what you say. I think that being the ally is definitely something that I definitely think being sometimes the only in the room is one of the perks. Going back to what's a perk, like being able to be an ally to somebody. And sometimes it's another brown face. or sometimes it's a woman. We're both in there, the only women sitting in the room, and so I think that opportunity to be there for somebody else is definitely
Yeah.
Something that shows up, and to be an ally and to be a trusted adult in the room to say, you're afraid to say it out loud, but you will come to me and say it, and
I
ask
can
me
say it
what
for
I think
you.
about it. Yeah, so I do think that is. I think of that like with brand new teachers, brand new principals, people who are new to the things that I have done, or over the years. So I agree with that. That's probably one of the best things about sometimes being the only in the room, is to be an ally. But I don't know if everybody has embraced it, but I do. I think, Jermaine, we were talking earlier, like there is a shift that I'm seeing in Black women leaders really trying to be allies for each other,
Come together.
and
Yeah.
trying to come together a little bit more, because I think we finally figured out, like, especially in this climate, we don't have anybody but ourselves.
That's right. That's right.
We can help one another and help each other avoid the pitfalls that maybe we've experienced, right?
I was at an event this past weekend, and I put a plug out there because I had a great time. It was Ubiquitous Women's Expo at the Maryland Live here in the Baltimore area. And one of the panelist discussions was talking about how this year alone, 300,000 Black women have been laid off.
Wow.
And so when we talk about the roles and responsibilities we have as some of us providers, the only person that our is bringing home and supporting our families and having a nurturing opportunity to be there, and just having to navigate through that. And some of it has just been a matter of, don't need you no more, and no explanation, no rhyme or reason, and or with the change in what things are going on in the country today, and just having to deal with that loss and the mental impact it's having on our communities is something to really think about. That's a pretty big number.
That's a huge number, and
So
you think
I have to
yeah.
the which session I was sitting through, but they were talking about not only, to your point, of the social media, but people finding other diverse ways to get after some of the things, more, could this be an opportunity for the birth of entrepreneurship more so than it has been in the past? And that was a very real conversation. Do we have to look at other talents that we may have that we could utilize our skills for? And so you start thinking about the shift of what's happening. It's definitely an opportunity. Some people are talking about, coming together and doing, to your point, of us doing more things collectively, vice and silos.
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought about it like that. I said, you know what, I need to really, people like, I'm gonna start a business, I'm gonna do this, but birthing ideas, getting after things differently. And so that's what is really shifting us into doing and thinking differently. And I thought it was a really good moment for me, because even though I've been in the government 31 plus years, but at the same time, with the way things are going with these efficiencies, you just don't never know. They could decide they don't need your position next week, and you packing up and you got less than 3 hours to get your stuff out the door, and you don't know. But at the same time, like, what do you what do you do? How do you think? I can only imagine.
And this is where I insert a shameless plug for episode 3 and 3, part 1 and part 2 for Boss Gals Talking Tea, career transitions and getting unstuck, as well as episode 4, entrepreneurship, right?
I didn't know all of those was, but I want to plug for you one.
Yes.
What a paid plug.
Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, because right, this environment is just interesting. I mean, and not only because of the DEI stuff, but just in general, right? I mean, you're talking about advances in technology and things like that, right? Where there's some jobs that's being eliminated, people need to make transitions. But that's the end of that shameless plug for episodes 3 and 4 of Boss Gals Talking Tea.
That's funny. That wasn't shameless. All right. So we're gonna wrap things up. Can you quickly, all right, because we can do a nice little plug about this. Just quickly tell us about your work-life balance. Is it balanced? Is it unbalanced? Do we need to call someone in to have a so quickly?
Work life
I guess
balance.
episode 3 in to come and do a
Work life balance to me is for me it has depended on the season in my life. When my children were little, absolutely no work life balance because I'm working. I don't know how I started, when I got into leadership as an AP and then as a principal, like I was leading other people, I was helping other people's children, giving all my time, and then having to come home and give my children what I had left. And so there was no work-life balance. I was trying to prioritize my children. Often I had to like get my husband to do stuff and that kind of thing. And then as my children started getting older, I started to see a little bit more work-life balance come. And now that they are practically adults, 2 are out of the house and I have a senior now, I have really leaned into I'm not getting ready to like miss these years in their lives. I may have been like all over the place, but still being mommy at the same time and still taking care of everybody else's kids. But there was a shift in my leadership as a principal where I just decided I'm not going to save everybody else's child and lose my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You said your children got older, but really it's because you got older and matured, right?
Yes, yeah.
And
So
matured
by middle
That's
school,
right.
I was like, you know what? They're getting away from me.
Right.
They're getting away from me. They're growing up. And so I remember there was a 8th grade promotion at my school, and my child's 8th grade promotion was on the same day. And I kindly told, my board, and I was like, I'm going to my child's 8th grade graduation. Now, there would have been a time I would have been like, I'm going to run over there, then I'm going to come back, then I'm going to try to do this one. And I was like, my baby is having his 8th grade graduation and I'm going. And there were people, who said at the school who were like, well, where is she? She should have been here, whatever. And these are the same people that, I'm approving leave for so they can go to recitals and games and go take care of loved ones and that kind of stuff. And so it was a real wake up call for me. Like, you can give your whole life to the job. You can if you want to. But 9 times out of 10, nobody's going to care about that in the end. They're not going to care that your children are struggling. They're not going to care that you sacrificed all this time. And at the end of the day, they will replace you if you, whatever. So I started to prioritize, my children and my family. And I just had to make a decision about that. So I think my balance was like, you can't keep sacrificing your home and your kids for what you are going after. And we as Black women, especially in leadership, we do want to advance. We do want to get, at a different level. And I'm a little older, and I came up in education when and I don't know how it is for you, Jermaine, but the older generation, it was work your way up. You're not skipping any steps. You're gonna just work your way up, And so I was very much raised in my career, like, okay, you do this first, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, and you get to a point where you can advance a little bit. And that was that almost makes you have to act like a man sometimes. Like it does, like, I'm somebody else to take care of my kids. I got to do this, or, whatever, or my husband got it, or the spouse got it, or whatever.
Right.
And so, our decisions as Black women leaders or women leaders in general are just different from men. It's just different. And 9 times out of 10, I think they're all, they're outliers. But, 9 times out of 10, the mommy is who, the kids are looking for, And so we have to make sacrifices. We have to make hard decisions. And sometimes they didn't understand why I couldn't come to the game, And then at some point I had to ask myself, why aren't you coming to the game? Why aren't you going to the game? How many more games are you going to miss? Mm-hmm. And so there is that tug, there's that tug when you're a mom to like, I'm trying to build a better life. I'm trying to give them access to more. But in the meantime, am I missing out on just, living life with my children? So I did around middle school kind of like, I'm not going to keep doing this. And that was, for me, that was my balance. Everybody's balance is different.
I would agree with a lot of you just said, Dr. Robin. To your point, being a mom, being a wife, and then trying to have a career, we do tend to think that we have to, and these are pressures. I think, I would say for me, I think I put a lot on myself because you feel like, oh, I can't miss this, I can't do that, I got to do this, I have to be there. But I think for me it was, with my family getting older, and I just had different, I would say different seasons in my career, different seasons. My children have very vast different age groups. So where I started out and where I am now with my age group, my children, is I have wide gaps in the ages. So me being older, as Yolanda so gracefully pointed out, has had an impact on that work-life balance. And not so much that I want to continue to go. I just can't. But I'm not doing this. I'm gonna take my day off. Even like down in high school. I don't know if y'all have it, but these kids take mental health days now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm
the one who need the mental health day, not you.
Ain't no perfect attendance. They not striving for perfect.
So now that the young people are taking mental health days, and even when my daughter went to A&T as well, A&T started declaring mental health days for the young people. And I said, that's a real thing.
It is.
So when you start, now I've been listening to a lot of things about self-care. And of course, everything want to talk about setting boundaries and, all this kind of stuff, and just taking the time for yourself and not feeling guilty about it. And that's a part of the work-life balance as well, that I think that, I didn't have as much of it earlier in my career that I'm trying to develop now, and utilizing when I need to have opportunity. And then also just saying, you know what, I'm tired, I gotta go. Because at the end of the day, people do it all the time. We weren't even thinking that was okay, because we didn't feel like we had to say I'm tired, or this is not a good day for me, or I need some time, or to your point of being there for your family, and that disappointment, you're not going to get those moments back. And I think for me, I also had to step back and observe that other people were doing it, and it was okay. And I had to also tell myself, Jermaine, you're not all that. Ain't nobody going to sit around and say, oh, why she not here? We can't have this meeting, or we can't continue. And I said, you know what? They're not going to miss me. They'll be okay. They'll be all right. I got people that have been trained, and they can handle it. They can take it on. I don't have to be there. And so just getting to the place of that, that confidence and empowering your folks, and just knowing that, hey, let me know what happened, and we'll be okay. So that's something that I think that's a maturity area that we have to get to. Yolanda knows I'm not waiting until I retire to take trips.
That's
right. We're going to go and do what we got to do, because nothing is guaranteed. And I definitely don't be trying to walk around Egypt in a walker. So I got things to do.
That's right.
Although I have to get Jermaine to take off 3 weeks, because she'll take
I will go back to work sooner than
twice. We've taken a 2-week international trip. And the time zone is off, and she's at work like the next day struggling.
Oh goodness!
Next time I won't be. I'll get
back. But I hear you. I hear you though, Jermaine, about that pressure. Because like you do put that pressure on yourself, because what have we been told all our lives as Black people? You got to work harder.
That's right.
Smarter.
Not harder. Twice as hard.
Three times as hard.
You gotta work twice as hard, 3 times as hard. Like, you can't take days off like everybody else. You gotta show up,
Exactly.
And like I would wear it with a badge, like it was a badge of courage. Like, I worked 80 hours this week.
Right.
I went to every game, I went to every club meeting, I went to every after school event. and then I'm home about to die.
Right.
Toenails falling off, hair.
Yeah, girl.
Horrible.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a real thing. And so,
Mhm.
Right.
yeah,
We
It
need
is.
transition time.
yeah, I'm getting to the point now where, like, when I go on a vacation, I unplug. I don't bring my work phone. I'm not turning on the computer, checking the email anymore. And there was a time when my kids would tell you, like, "Mommy, please put your laptop down," because
Oh
I
yeah.
do me everywhere on vacation on the
Mhm.
laptop.
Not even taking
Well,
a real
listen,
vacation.
Black women, we suffer the most from like heart issues
Absolutely.
and stress.
Stress.
Stuff is one of the factors that leads to those heart issues. So if
Mhm.
we're talking about Black women in leadership, I think the key is this: you have to find the balance, because
Mhm.
one of the number one things in heart related killing us as Black women, we got to take it down a notch.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that when you're, I know what we've been taught from our parents who are baby
Mhm.
boomers or before, but at this point, statistics are speaking
Yeah.
and they're not lying. So we gotta think about stuff like that before we.
Exactly.
That's
And
right.
every black female leader needs a therapist.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, yes, ma'am.
It should be
Got that right.
standard. It should be
Yeah.
part of your plan for self-care.
Yes, ma'am.
Like,
That.
Amen.
don't listen to your grandma, don't
Mhm.
listen to your aunties, don't listen to the older people tell you that you're crazy and
No,
you
ma'am.
know we don't go to that's what
Taboo.
people do.
Right. We don't talk about it.
We
Yeah.
don't talk about that kind of stuff.
That's right.
Every black woman leader needs a therapist.
Yes, ma'am.
I
I
think
agree.
every black woman needs one, but especially if
That's
you're in
Oh yeah,
leadership,
you're right.
you
You're
need
right
a
about that.
therapist.
I
So
totally
that you're
agree.
part of your self-care plan
Mm-hmm.
to include therapy.
Listen,
Totally agree.
y'all heard it first from Dr. Robin and
I'm telling
Jermaine.
you. I'm telling you.
So as we transition to the end of the show,
Mhm.
let's give a hand to Dr. Robin and Jermaine for just giving us wisdom nuggets that I think if you couldn't take something, you could take something else, so I think we have plenty of nuggets that you all can take from. So let's end with this. Can you all give us advice? Share your advice for aspiring leaders. Like what would you say to the, I don't even know the titles now, the millennials, the Gen X, the Gen Y? What would you say? What kind of advice would you share to those wanting to be in leadership?
I had an intern over the summer, and the main thing I just kept telling this young man was learn your job, ask questions, and write down some goals you have for what can they do for you? What do you don't necessarily have to always know what you want to do, the next 5-6 years in your life, but at the same time, what do you want to get? What come to work with a purpose of what you want to achieve, what you want to learn, and call us out as leaders if we have not served you in that capacity. I was always checking with him saying that I talked to you about architecture. Did I talk to you about zero trust? Did I talk to you about cyber? What did I miss today? Or was there something? What are you taking next semester? Do you need to? How can we help them continue to grow? So as I'm doing my part, my expectation of them is to learn the job. So if I give you something, because at the end of the day, I'm really big on accountability. You can say you didn't know, and you can say you don't understand, but when I tell you or when I teach you, that goes out the door. Because at the end of the day, you knew, and because I told you. So it just kind of goes both ways, and we're that way with Christ. And when we don't know, we have to learn. We do better. We know better. We do better. And so that's really what I try to encourage, not only just people that know me, but a lot of the young people, is just learn the job that you've been given. The rest will come. Because a lot of them are coming in talking about, oh, I got this. I need to be making 100,000. I need to be making this. I'm like, well, how you figure that? You got a degree? What? I mean, what you got for me? So it becomes like a little joke. But I think to that point is really just allowing young people to develop those skills, and that goes along with them. We know you educating, you're smart because you got the degree, but there's other interpersonal skills and other job things that you have to learn as well. And my job is to make sure you get there and reach those goals and accomplishments.
I think a couple of things I would say is what I always tell my children. Don't just get a job, find a career.
Yes.
Don't just get a job, find a career, whatever that career is for you. The second thing would be to find a strong mentor and listen to them. Find a strong mentor and listen to them. And don't be afraid to take a couple of steps back so that you can be launched forward. You might come out of school and you might not get the job that is in your field.
That's right.
And that might feel, like, oh my God, but take those 2 steps back, take that entry level position in another field if you have to, because you're going to learn something there that's going to help you to get to where you want to go. So those are my big ones. Don't just get a job, look for a career, get a mentor and listen to them. And don't be afraid to take a couple of steps back so you can get launched forward.
Well, and you didn't ask me, but I'm gonna add something to it. you know how I do. One of the things that when we talked about hard work, right? We go into our job sometimes, and our head is just down, just doing our job. I think both of you, because I have my little notes, mentioned relationship building and making connections, right? As you aspire to be a leader, that is going to be super, super important, because 98% of the people around you are competent, right? And just as competent as you are. And so those relationships is the thing that's going to make the difference in terms of when you're advancing in your career. So I just wanted to add that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for that nugget.
You're very welcome.
All right, friends. Well, that's all we got. Again, this was a wonderful show. And we want to thank, again, Dr. Robin and Jermaine for taking their time out to just share some advice with us. I saw something the other day that just says, sometimes we just can't gatekeep everything. Let it out and share with others. So thank you for opening up the gates and giving us just the wisdom and nuggets that you share. All right. So tune in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And the next episode is going to be just as fire as this one. So be on the lookout for that one. And we will see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.